So it's already July. Half the year is gone. Or maybe you're watching this another time. Maybe you still have that same quiet feeling. Where did the time go? I feel like I'm asking myself this more and more these days. Time is just working differently these days. Anyways, this isn't a hustle video. This video is not made to shame or blame you, but just a loving reminder that you still have half a year left. What are you doing with your life? So I realized that most of us actually live waiting for happy hour, Friday, scrolling through other people's lives, getting through the week instead of being in it, and then suddenly you blink your eyes and then it's Christmas again. And then every year we kind of repeat the same cycle where we're like, where did the time go? And then come January 1st, you set New Year's resolution, you swear it's going to be different, and then again, where did the time go? I was reflecting on this loop cycle that we all seem to be in, and I realized that life doesn't just disappear all at once, but it really does disappear, one ordinary Tuesday at a time. So today we're going to talk about goals, we're going to talk about New Year's resolution if you remember yours, as well as a new way of looking at how to achieve your goals that's going to make the rest of the year a lot more manageable. If you're new here, hi, my name is Casey. I'm an emotional alchemy guide here to bridge the gap between spirituality and also being human. I'm all about honoring and connecting with your emotions because I believe emotions are our most trusted guiding compass in life. This channel, we're going to talk about healing, we're going to talk about growth, emotional alchemy, practice videos, and so much more. So if you haven't already, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Before we start, let's unwind time a little. Let's come back to January, where it's very popular for us to set New Year's resolution and we have all these big goals and we envision a completely different and new version, better and new version, right? By the end of the year. So let's come back to that moment. And I now want to ask you, do you remember how did you want to feel by December 31st? Not what you wanted to achieve, but how and what you wanted to feel about yourself. Because when we set goals, these are some very common ones. Say save money, certain amount of money, or you want to lose weight, you want to find love, you want to travel the world. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with these, but this is what I noticed. A lot of times, 1st of January especially, we set goals with our head. But on a day-to-day basis, we actually live life with our body, with all our senses, with our energy. We meet the world, not just with the mind, but us as a person, as a whole. So instead of all these numbers and what I like to call quantitative goal, I want you to think about who is the person behind these goals. Instead of asking, what do I want? I want you to ask, who is that person who naturally has that life that I want? And this is when I discovered, I honestly think it came to me when I was doing the dishes or something the best ideas always do. This is when it came to me that there's a key difference between quantitative goals and qualitative goals. Let me break this down a little bit more. For example, I was reflecting on some of my goals, and this is a big one for me. It's related to work, to business, to clients. Originally, just like 90% of human beings, right? I was like, I want 5 clients a month. I want a certain amount of money. I want this. All to me are quantitative goals. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, but that it's all mental. It's all what is the thing that we're achieving. I thought about it a little bit more, and I started considering the person behind these goals, the person who naturally has a life that has these goals. Instead of thinking I want 5 clients a month or a certain amount of money that comes through my business, which is in some way it's out of my control, right? I cannot force people to sign me on as their coach. I cannot force people to give me money, not legally anyways. What I do have control is to embody the qualities of the person who would naturally have this life. I'll give you a couple of examples that I thought of. The first one was discipline. I thought if I were someone who was, say, hosting classes every day and signing clients every week, I have to be a very disciplined person that is reliable, that is trustable, that I won't cancel on people. I won't be flaky just because I wasn't feeling it. I'm someone who is going to be showing up every day. So discipline was one quality that I thought about. The second quality I thought about is in order to hold this amount of abundance, I have to be someone who is actually skillful at my craft. So those are 2 of the many qualities that I came up with that I imagine, okay, someone who has the things that I want, this is the person who has that. And instead of, again, focusing on the numbers, which are all mental, which is a good direction to have, I started embodying all these qualities a bit more because these are things that I actually have control over. Again, where I cannot force people to sign me on as their coach and teacher. or force them to come to my classes. I'm always in control on what I practice on a day-to-day basis. So when I kind of mapped out these qualities of the person who has my dream life, I started living every day, making every decision, big or small, based on these qualities. Now it's only been 7 months, so July is when I'm recording this video, and I didn't even realize until I started, brainstorming this video and look back. My work has expanded so much in such a short amount of time. I started teaching in my dream studio that was actually on my vision board for a little while now. But again, at the time, I made all these goals very mental, right? Very quantitative. I'm like, I want to teach there. But when it comes down to day day, what am I actually doing? Am I actually honing my craft? Am I actually going out to talk to people? Am I actually building confidence within myself to be able to hold this job when that lands? So yeah, I started teaching in my dream studio, and then I was doing a little audit on private clients. I've grown from just having a handful of private clients to now having around 20 private clients that I'm teaching, which is just such a blessing, as well as many, many exciting opportunities and collaborations lining up for the end of the year as well. So I could tell you that this method really, really works. I'll give you another example just in case you're like, I don't care about that. So let's say health. Honestly, the concept is the same. When you say, I want to lose 5 kg, 10 pounds, or I want to have like a 24-inch waist, like what does that mean? Because even thinking about that goal, I would be a little nervous about what do I actually have to do every day. It's a little abstract, even though it's also clear. Paradoxical nature of life. Instead of just thinking about these goals on a mental level, I want you to think about the qualities of the person who naturally has this fitness level or this body. So maybe this is someone who is very disciplined with what they put inside their body, or very knowledgeable with how health, how fitness, how different things that actually matter, how it works. Maybe this is someone who really has standards on nutrients or whatever that is. Coming back to when you think of these goals that you have, the person who naturally has it, what are some of their best qualities? Because the qualities are what you practice every day, and then the numbers will just take care of themselves. I would even suggest for you to just let go of those goals, those quantitative goals, the numbers, the what, the exact concrete goals. Forget about them, because I deeply believe that the goals, they become simply inevitable once you become that person who naturally lives that life. Coming back to say one of my original goals with business, right? If I'm someone who's passionate, who is so good at what she does, who is disciplined, who is trustable, who is skillful, who's all these things, it's impossible for my business goals not to happen. And I think it's really important to make this video mid-year in July as a reminder, because a lot of times we think we're killing time, something very innocent. We're doom scrolling, we're doing this and that. But then one day we look up and we realize, or rather ask ourselves, where did the time go and where did our life go? And then it might hit us that all these years we think we are killing time when in fact time is killing us. So this video is to serve as a reminder for you to stop sleepwalking into the end of the year. And I think what separates the people who are awake versus the people who are sleepwalking their life most of the time, it's not productivity, it's not hustle or how much you can achieve in a day, but rather it's intention and presence. You don't need to have everything figured out yet, but you do need to have the ability to pause, assess, and ask yourself what you actually want. Be clear with your life and your intention, and then try to the best of your ability, live every day or as many waking moments as possible with presence. And I know in this day and age where most of us have ADHD, there are just so many things distracting us from what's real, from purpose, from joy, from love. I want you to pause and try to refrain from instant gratification and rather really think about your life. What do you want to build for yourself in the long term? Because the biggest tragedy in life isn't failing your goals, your New Year's resolution. I don't honestly care about that. The biggest tragedy is actually forgetting to consciously participate in your own life. So the shift I want you to have to live the rest of the year out with purpose, it's not perfection. You don't need to save the world or clean the ocean in 5 months, but you do need to be intentional and clear about your life, your goals, and how you're living your day to day. Even just knowing what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing, it sets the tone. It can completely change your life. So remember, the second half of this year isn't about you cramming more in to fulfill your New Year's resolution. And I also don't want you to feel like a failure at all, maybe for having forgotten about your New Year's resolution in the first place. This video is here to serve as a reminder to wake up, to be present, and to live intentionally. I don't want you to wake up tomorrow and it's already January and then you beat yourself up and then you go through the whole ordeal over and over again, and then 10 years pass, 30 years pass, and you're like, what just happened? I want you to start living intentionally today, right after this video. Actually, in fact, right this moment. Okay, so we actually touched on a lot of points. Let's bring them all back home. Just one question, one prompt to close. What's the one quality you're going to choose to embody for the rest of the year? And trust that even if it's just one quality, if you show up over and over again every single day, that's going to change how the second half of the year looks like for you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you resonated with any of the messages or if there's any goals of yours that you want to share, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, let me know, DM me, and I will see you next time.